You hear them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shake it!
Okay. First of all, I just repeat the concept of these interviews. So it's we do it for a video installation. There will be 12 monitors, small monitors.
12?
12. So there also will be 12 people interviewed. And it's in a room which is round. And when you enter the room, you hear a lot of murmuring. You hear all the 12 talking at the same time. And you need to go close to one of the monitors to listen to one of the stories.
Cannot have an earphone?
We
But
think
sometimes
also
it's
about
two people.
for headphones, but this depends
It will
on.
have chairs or it will be high to look?
I think it will be in
The eyes?
like in this. So for smaller people and taller, so it should be.
But you stand in front of it.
Yeah, it should be
Like in.
But this is not fixed decided. This will be.
But it's nice. You hear a sentence from here, and your continuation is there. Like.
And the general idea is that you have the narratives of all those people, and the way how we select people is very personal. So the work should be also a statement how we are connected to the issue, to the topic, because it's somehow strange that two Viennese artists are going to Israel 6 times and starting this.
The hand is down a bit.
It's rolling?
Okay.
And you hear Friedemann okay?
Yeah. So it's very important for us to make this statement about our relationship to the place here.
Yeah.
By choosing people we already know.
Yeah.
And who are somehow related as friends or friends of friends. And so it's also like a picture of how we met this place.
Yeah.
And we somehow want to transfer our experience of the complexity. Because whenever we talk to the different people, you get a very stringent, a very logical story, or not logical, but a very personal story, which is correct in itself. And if you listen to the story of another person, somehow they are starting interferences.
So we will talk about also our relations, how we met, what we know about one another, how I was. What I got from being in Austria and Vienna, things like this, or just about Israel?
No. We're mainly talking about your relation to the place here. I will ask you to introduce yourself. From also a bit the family background, or how did you come to this place, and what is your relation? And in the end, we will ask you about your utopia, your personal utopia for this place. So, and in general, it should be like a dialogue, and it will do its own. It will follow its own rules. So you want to start with the question, or I will start talking? Yeah, please start. Maybe introducing yourself and telling something about you.
Okay, I'm 60 years old. I am in Jerusalem since the age of 1 year. My parents immigrated to Israel in 1948. But all memories are from Jerusalem. I lived here all my life, except of going here and there. And to me, Jerusalem is, I don't even know how to describe it. Because usually you live in your house, so there's nothing new, it looks like the same place. But if I go into my memories, I can see how Jerusalem changed. when my parents came to Jerusalem as new immigrants, it was just the end of the war in Jerusalem. The war was still going on, the 48 war around. They were put in a place where Arabs lived before. I mean, few months after the Arabs left Jerusalem, we came to a neighborhood which was all Arab. And I was not aware of it until my 20s or my 30s, where I could say I was haunted by the fact that we live in a place of refugees. I mean, my parents were refugees from Europe, in a sense, and we came and filled the house of other refugees. And for these people that lived in this house, it's not important who is right and who is wrong in the conflict. It is a house, it's their home. I mean, who started the war, who did start? It's not important. It is just some sort of the laws of the jungle. The weak was moved, and another animal got the cave of the other animal that was forced to leave. So in this sense, I was educated that Arabs are bad, that Arabs want to kill us. As a child, I wanted to be a hero in the army. I wanted to protect my country. The books that I read, and all the kids that read, were nationalistic. How either the British before as the mandate, and then the Arabs, groups of people doing heroic things, saving their country, saving these things. And I was raised on this, I call it Chasamba, because Chasamba was some kind of 15 books about a group of children that were very nationalistic. But everybody was nationalistic. It was a new country, new state. You can understand the nationalism of the Palestinians if you're Israeli that lived then, because everybody was nationalistic. But I must say that I must say that on very early age, about 15, 16, when I started to read and to understand some things, I was already aware, and not because of the house I lived, because then only I was haunted afterwards, but I was aware that there are neighbors over there. Jerusalem was divided. I mean, you would go to the border in 2 minutes walk from my house. Immediately you see a border, there are other people living there. Jerusalem was an island, and it was bordered all around. So speaking of my personal experience, when nobody even mentioned the word Palestinians. Even the Palestinians hardly mentioned the word Palestinians. But in Israel, there was Arabs, no Palestinians, this word. But through some, basically I was connected to the movement of Avneri, Uri Avneri, and I got my early education from his political views. And already I remember when I was 18 and before we went to the army, it was 1965, it was before the Six-Day War, and they brought Prime Minister Eshkol to give us some motivation when we go to the army, and a group of all the kids in Jerusalem who were in a park, and Eshkol was talking, and suddenly my voice from the crowd, and what about the Palestinian issue? And it was then something that nobody even understood what I want from him. But it was some kind of a fanatism. I didn't have the deep understanding. I was a young kid, but I had this nihilistic drive in me, this anarchistic drive in me, I think from birth. Maybe because I was son of immigrants. and I was not really rooted here. Or maybe it's something you're born with. But I can say that I was against the occupation before there was even occupation, in a way. And I say it really honestly, I'm not trying to make myself more leftist than the left, because I'm not automatic leftist. I'm not with the left with everything. Mainly I'm with nothing with the right, but I'm not going on all the ways of the thoughts of the left. But it just happened this way, talking about myself, that I know that that injustice was something that motivated me very much, because I was against everything. Even as a child, I thought that something is wrong with me. Everybody else thought something's wrong with me, because I was thinking a bit different to the rest. But I can say that I tell you a story. Always stories are nice in interviews, yes?
Sure.
I was about 5 years old, and I had friends in the other neighborhood, and I visited the friends. There were some kids, 5, 6 kids, and the mother came and gave a candy each kid. And I didn't get a candy. I mean, everybody was then very poor. So she didn't know me very well, or maybe she didn't give me a candy, but she told a story. And I already said then that old people, mature people, think the children are stupid, but children understand everything. And I even think I told myself, don't forget it when you grow up. Remember, the children are not stupid. So I think growing in Jerusalem in a neighborhood where we were playing football on the street because a car was passing every 15 minutes, or the bus would come in the winter and we stand behind the exhaust and warm ourselves in the middle of the football game. But it's probably boring, so they can move to the next interview now. So that's about I'll say something important. That the first day I got to the army, I had a drive, although I was not against the army. I had a drive. I still wanted in somewhere to be a hero and to serve my country. But on the first day, I thought we all go to the army and we're all friends and we are fighting together and we are comrades. And then suddenly came a corporal and told us, jump from the truck, get up on the truck, jump from the truck, get up on the truck. We had a big kid bag, put the kid bag up, put the kid bag down. The third time I put the kid bag on him, and I was in prison at my first day in the army. So I must say that my parents, they really didn't expect much from me. I was a bad student in school. I was a bad boy. Many parents were not very happy that I was the friend of their children, and they were happier if I would not be their friend. And my parents, they didn't know what shall we do with this kid. He's bad in school, he's not studying, he's just in the streets, he's not doing anything with his life. We should teach him to drive a truck. He will be a truck driver. So during my military service, my parents, it was in Be'er Sheva, they went to a driving school and spent a lot of money for me to learn how to drive a truck. So after I get out of the army, I'll be a truck driver. I'll have a profession. For them, profession was very important to have. But unfortunately for them, I failed in 3 tests of the truck. And suddenly I found myself making movies instead of being a truck driver. But there were not much expectations from me, basically. I was a failure, a loser.
You failed it willingly?
What?
You failed the
Tests.
tests.
3
willingly?
tests. No. I wanted to pass it. I wanted to have a license to drive just a normal car even. But
Being an immigrant's kid in '48, wasn't it more the majority phenomenon than the minority?
that immigrants were the majority?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if you're the majority. Even in Africa, the natives were the majority, but there was some British that had the rules and the hegemony.
No, I meant it in case of that you said this maybe made you being some kind of outcast.
Yeah. I
In
couldn't.
that case, there
My
should
parents.
have been a lot of outcasts.
Yeah.
If that would be the reason.
Yeah. Some other kids. Yeah, I couldn't communicate with my parents basically. We spoke different languages. They spoke Bulgarian, and I spoke Hebrew. So I could hear Bulgarian, so I did not have much communication with them. But there were a lot of immigrants here, and everybody tried to get into the Israeli culture, which was created, which was quite new, is to be a Sabra, to speak like a Sabra and to act like a Sabra, and
Which means a Sabra.
which is
Can you?
which
I
is
know it, but
which is being arrogant, basically. It's the main trait or portrait of the Sabra is being arrogant, thinking that he knows everything, speaking about things you don't understand anything about it. And but as a child is
now you give already a comment to the Sabra. I just wanted to have a definition. So like.
so the definition is first of all is arrogant and thinks that he knows everything, and not like you Austrians. Everything will be okay. We don't need to plan too much. At the end, everything will be fixed by itself. It's not maybe Germans, not Austrians. But this is a thing of there is a saying, "Yeh beseder," it will be okay. Don't worry, "Yeh beseder," it will be okay. This is Sabra, and Rega is Sabra as well. And no manners, no politeness, as a choice, not to be rough, to be, as the Sabra, as a cactus with that. This is basically it's true about.
And it means to be born in Israel, right?
You see, to be born in Israel is.
Makes you a
Is
Sabra.
make at that time make you on a higher level because you're not immigrant. You are from here. You belong here. Your parents have a good job. Your parents speak the language. They can help you in your homework.
So in case
Things
of
like this.
in case of identity, it's a big difference to be born here, even in the age of 1 year.
No. I was like a Sabra. I don't carry anything from behind, from Bulgaria, everything, because everything I remember it was here. I was 1 year old.
This is something which very fascinated us, the phenomenon that this connection between parents and their children was somehow cut willingly. So to leave the European history behind the next generation, so not to transfer it into the next generation. I read this story about Ben Yehuda
Eliezer Ben Yehuda.
and his son. So the parents decided not to talk with him in their mother tongue, only in Hebrew.
Yeah.
And he didn't talk until
For a
he
long
was
time.
3 or something.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Ben Yehuda found his wife talking Russian to the son, and he became very angry.
Yeah.
And because the kid saw that the father is angry and there's something going on, he started talking Hebrew.
Oh, yeah?
So, this is like a legend.
Yeah,
but for us it was so strange to meet people that all of them talking in a language their grandparents and minimum their grandparents, most of them the parents don't have it as their mother tongue.
Yeah.
So
this is mainly most of Israel. But you said Europe. More than half of the population is not from Europe. Half of the population is from North Africa and Arab countries. Iraq, Yemen, Persia, Morocco, Tunis. And these people were not even counted by the Ashkenazi Jews, by the establishment. I mean, they were okay. This countries, they started it in the 20s or even in the last century, building it a home for the Jewish people, and they thought about Russians, Polacks, Germans. They didn't think about the people that will come from the east. From Mizrahi Jews, and what happened basically? Suddenly, there was a war, and there was not enough Jews from Europe to come here. Anyway, they wouldn't come here because all these years they didn't come, and they wanted to populate the country very quickly. So they did all kind of things to bring Jews from Arab countries to Israel. Now these Jews were not Zionists. They didn't read Herzl and Sokolov and Katzenelson and Usishkin or Ben Yehuda. They were not Zionists at all. I mean, they knew, like everybody, that there is the Holy Land and we are praying to go to the Holy Land. But in Morocco, they had their life. In Iraq, they had their life for hundreds of years. In Iraq, for thousands of years. The Iraqi Jews are more Iraqis than the Iraqis themselves because they are there from the first temple. So, and they speak the language of the first temple, Aramaic in many places. The Kurdish, they are there for more than 2,000 years. And suddenly there is a rush. We need to fill up this country. We need people. So, for example, in Morocco, they wanted to bring 600,000 Jews from Morocco. So, and the Moroccans, they didn't know anything about Israel. So they sent all kinds of agents. They brought American Jews to visit and see the Jews, what bad conditions they have, and we should bring them from the Middle Ages to the 20th century to Israel. But what they showed, all these rich Americans, and I tell you why rich Americans, because they had to pay the king something like $100 a head, so they will go out. And since the king was making so much money, he encouraged the Jews also to go out, because he would. But they brought these rich Americans to the Atlas Mountains, to where 6% of Moroccan Jews lived. And they lived in really like in the Middle Ages, in caves, and they had all these things. But the rest of Morocco was French. They were like French, the rest of the 94% of the Moroccans, Jewish Moroccans. They were like French, and they were even more closer to the French than the Moroccans themselves. They spoke Moroccan, but they spoke French. They had shops, businesses, all kinds of small businesses. But they were brought here as a bulk of 500,000, and Israel treated them like the 6% from there. So, for example, the Moroccan Jews really suffered because they brought them and considered them as primitives. And in a way, they started to act this way. Started to drink, crime, everything was with the Moroccans. And they had sort of they were called the Moroccan knife and all kind of prejudice things against the Moroccans. The Moroccans, most prejudice was against them. And if you go in the 50s to a prison, most of the prisoners are Moroccans. And if they're not Moroccans, they're from other Arab country. The Ashkenazi Jews from Europe had better life. They didn't have to be criminals. But these Jews from Morocco, you could hardly find any criminals there in Morocco. Or those that didn't come to Israel and went to France and to Canada, they became professors and Claude Lelouch's and all kind of things. But when Claude Lelouch came to Israel, they wanted to put him in Dimona, in the Negev, like other people. And they would not that he's a big genius in my eyes, but they didn't have fair chance in this country, the Moroccan Jews. So, and many times people have the mistake to say Israel and the people that came from Europe and that came from the Holocaust. Okay, they're miserable, they suffered, and they came. They didn't have even choice, they came. But these people had a choice, and they were brought here. And in Jerusalem, if it is a border, you go to the Musrara, near the old city, it was all Moroccan and Iraqis. If you go to around Bet Safafa, all Moroccans and Iraqis. They built big complexes of buildings that looked like walls because there were snipers. I remember shooting here in Jerusalem. So they put all the new immigrants around like a wall of Jerusalem. And in the Lebanese border and in the Negev, and this is very important when we say people from Europe, not to forget that the majority here is not from Europe.
Mm-hmm. And you realized this already as a kid?
Yes. Look, my parents are from Europe, but my name, Nissim, is a name that usually Moroccans have. And Yemenites have. So whenever I go and say Nissim, immediately I was put into second class. I can identify with the Moroccans and the rest because of my name, which is Nissim. And why my name is Nissim? Because most of the Jews in Bulgaria, they are Sephardic Jews from Spain, like the Moroccan Jews. They also went from Spain there. So we have common names in many things. So although my parents had more or less European culture, like in a Moroccan house or Iraqi house, you would hear Kulthum, Farid al-Atrash, you would hear Arabic music. And the kids, the Israeli kids, their sons, were very ashamed of this music because the establishment made them be ashamed of anything that looks like Arab, that is connected to Arab or to Arabic. I must say, I mean, this was common all over the world at that time. It's not an Israeli phenomenon. And it's not that I see it like Israel was a racist country. It was not. It sounds bad. And I'm sorry that it sounds bad. It was not this way. Or we couldn't see it this way because this was kind of the way the socialist government of Ben-Gurion saw things. And they were very limited-minded. And they tried to make a new Israeli race. And really what made it is really the common service in the army. So then Moroccans and Yekes and from Czechoslovakia or from different countries will blend. And basically the blending pot or the melting pot of Israel, of Israeli culture, is in the army. So because in the 50s, Moroccan and European could not speak to one another. Today, Moroccan and European getting married. and a lot of children are half and half.
So you can say on one hand, Zionism, the job is done, or
I think the time is making it.
yeah, but it was
Time
what
making.
they intended. The Zionists intended to make one people.
Yeah, they intended. They did not. They were racist, but if you would tell them you're racist, they would be very shocked. We are racist? Are you crazy? We are socialists. We are for everybody. We want to give everybody. But somehow they were racists. But this is racism. Today it looks like racism. At that time, many horrible things could be done, and it was common and normal these years. Also, Israel was a poor country. It was not a rich country. It was not a country without enemies. It had a lot of problems. Suddenly, 600,000 have to make homes and beds and food for 2 million people that came in 2 or 3 years, build places. So we should not judge them so harshly. We should not look at it and as somebody from London saying, wow, how could they treat these people? There were big problems. There was a fear that this country will not survive. There was a lot of enemies that were talking all the time that we are going to drown you in the sea. There was a lot of fear. I remember 1967, I was afraid. I thought, okay, I'll look around maybe for the last time, because we were sure that it's very possible that we shall lose the war. The same thing in 48. I mean, we should not judge Israel so harshly. I mean, I can talk about these things with Israeli when we all know the history and everything. But when I talk to you, I forget that you don't know everything I know and will sound horrible. But it's not so horrible, because on the other hand, Zionism is maybe the only successful revolution that happened. And a revolution that really built a beautiful country. A beautiful country. I mean, you cannot say it about the Palestinians when Israel moved out from Gaza and they got, I mean, it was a mistake to destroy all the buildings. But here you have this place, you saw, you were working there, they had agriculture, go and develop the same agriculture. They don't do it. And the Israelis did it from the beginning. It is something special about Israelis and Israel and the success of it. There is, you cannot avoid it.
It is maybe very to the point of our exhibition, in which this installation also will be, because our main problem is to come here ever and ever again, is to learn a lot about these differences, difficulties, complexity, and the more you learn about it, the more difficult it becomes to tell it in Europe, because there's a very black and white vision. So
the easy way. The easy way.
On the other hand, we are in
talking there, knocking.
Somebody's knocking or hammering.
When it goes into my voice.
Yeah.
Karin muss das beurteilen. It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, maybe it's like it's a dilemma for us, because we hear a lot of our friends are very critical, leftist or activist artists, and so. But we planned to make an exhibition and to show also this kind of artworks. But on the other hand, we are in danger to be misunderstood in Europe, because it fits, some of the things fit very good into old anti-Semitic
prototypes
and prejudices, or even in the left, it's not anti-Semitism in its open way, but they have some kind of an anti-Israelism, which hardly covers a kind of old-fashioned anti-Semitism in the left way. So.
But you know,
you're a filmmaker and you are also going abroad, and so how do you deal with this discrepancy?
Look, I sometimes I'm making films very critical about Israel, but I do it to the Israeli public, because if there is something about these films, is to change some views, to change some looking at things, perspectives. And I basically do it for Israeli public. But somehow my films are more successful abroad than in Israel. So it is a dilemma when I go there and speak about, I speak about the occupation because I know that we should change some things. But I don't speak about, in this film, about terrorism. I left somebody else to speak about terrorism. There is enough talk about it. But if I made a film on Vanunu and the Israeli nuclear thing, I feel that I managed to change at least the view at Vanunu, which looked like a monster, and now there is some more understanding and looking at him as a man, which is at least a human being, even if they don't agree with him. I agree with the views of Vanunu, I must say, and I think he is courageous to do what he did. But in Israel, Vanunu was the worst, more than Arafat, more than George Habash, more than Nasrallah. Vanunu was the worst thing possible. He told the biggest secret of Israel to the world, and he became Christian also. And then the fact that he became Christian was even worse than he told the bigger secret for people, you see? So I think I managed to show him as a human being, as a student of philosophy, as a man that has some things in his mind, that has idea and ideology. And so I make this film for Israeli public. I want them to change their view. And whatever I do, I approach. Then I was in a film festival where I got this thing, I got understood. I was in Jewish Film Festival in San Francisco. Very leftist. They really bring the worst films from Israel as far as Israelis looked at. And then there was a film director that already had in the past also some films there. And she came on stage and she said, you should not, and the Jewish Film Festival, so probably many Jews there, you should not go to Israel, you should not be tourists in Israel, you should boycott Israel and everything. And I said, hold on a minute. This is your country, after all. You want to change some things and you have some problems, do it to the Israeli public. Why are you doing it here, to these people? And that is where I could see it on a extreme way, the dangers. So I'm honest, I love Israel. It's my home. I want everybody to visit here. I want this place to look better, to be better. So I don't hide it. Even if I make films which are critical about Israel, it's because I love Israel, not because I hate Israel. I mean, if you want to educate your son, you don't say he's great all the time. Sometimes he needs a little spanking. Yeah, but you love your son. I cannot live anywhere else except of Israel. It's good life in Europe, it's good life in America. I would not want to live here, out of here. And if I'm here, out for 2 weeks, I already want to come back, usually.
It's a very nice point to go to our question about the utopia, the personal utopia. So if you do science fiction, how this place should be in about 10 years, hopefully in 5 years?
Look, realistically,
No, science fiction.
let's start with realistically.
Okay.
Realistically, I feel it's going to be worse. It's bad, more bad all the time. It's worse. Since I started my childhood until now, every time is worse, becoming worse and worse and worse. If this country started with feeling of togetherness, of solidarity, of being brothers and sisters, when it started with the pioneers and even in the early Israel, when I went to the army with joy until I found out that it's not such a big joy. This country today is a capitalist in the most disgusting, piggish way. People don't care about one another. People are very rude. The television making the people stupid, very shallow. People don't read books. People don't listen to music or to classic good music. It's going deteriorating. People don't care about the occupation. Everybody was born after the occupation. And realistically, I don't think it's going to be better. Not only here, everywhere, all over the world. Don't worry about it. As far as my utopia is, wow, first of all, no religion. No religion is the biggest separation between people. Puts the separation. And even inside Judaism, if you are secular or Jewish, religious, it is a separation. I think religion is something that worked against humanity from its beginning. I think that with time, people could find their ways without religion. I think the Aborigines or the people in South America, they were maybe primitive, but they were good people without religion and without the fear of God. So my utopia is that it will be a Jewish Arab country. Jews and Arabs can enjoy the fruits of the cultures of each another. That the Jews will stay Jews and the Arabs will stay Arabs, but we can live together and have mutual things together. Always the Jews are attracted to the Arabs because they have something different and more rooted in the ground. And the Arabs are attracted to the Jews because the Jews are a bit more developed and more Europeans. So there is this attraction, which I wanted, like in the time of the British, before there was Israel, Palestinians lived here, Arabs and Jews together, and you had the Levant. This is how I see things, the best, that will work the best. It will never happen, I can tell you. It will never happen.
Noise from outside.
So what? I mean, people walk there as well, there is noise. Yeah. You're disappointed for my answer?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. So I ask you for your utopia.
So my utopia is like everywhere else. Freedom to everybody. No poor people. It's okay if there are rich people, but at least there will be no poor people. That everybody will have a fair chance from the beginning. Children, all children will have fair chance from the beginning. The leadership and the state will be first of all for the welfare of the individual, and will give him what he needs to have more schools, more open schools, invest more in culture, in music. I mean, if all the bombs that they were throwing on the Arabs, instead they would throw violins and saxophones, I tell you that there would not be terror. If there would be enough food and music, people will not be so bad and so violent and so pushy. It's, if we get the basics of life, so we are not nervous and we're not afraid and we're not worried, so then we have enough in us to give to others.
So you
And
think
others
it's
have
only,
in
it's
them.
only a question of
Cigarette?
social? Just
No, it's over there. I'm not connected. Sorry. No.
We can also have a meeting break.
yeah. Let's have a break. May I answer?
Please.
You can take one of mine if you want.
I don't have.
The slim shade.
I just wanted to ask them something.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have matches?
No, you will need both.
It will go in loop
Yeah. Like brainwash.
from a hard disk,
From a DVD.
from DVD. You can set the DVD to run all the time in loop.
And the idea is when people enter their room, they know from the beginning that if they want to listen to all of the people, they have to stay for 8 hours or something, because we really want to have the whole talks except some
Yeah.
cutting outs. And
I mean, you think you'll take the personal thing about the truck and everything? No.
no, in the
Well,
beginning,
being a
the
truck
sound,
driver.
no. Yeah, maybe yes. Why not? Because this yes, it gives the if except you don't want us to do it.
No, I don't care. Why should I? I'm not ashamed of anything.
The idea
I
is-
did a lot of bad things. I'm not ashamed. I'm sorry about them, but I'm not ashamed. With girls.
The main idea is the main idea is also to give to make people feel that if they only listen to 12, only for 1 hour, it takes them 12 hours. Which
No,
is a
I
very
don't
simple-
I think people look sometimes. When you go to buy a book, you open and you look,
Yeah.
you say, wow, I want to buy this book.
Yeah,
So if you hear something that catches you, you stay a few minutes until it's a bit boring, you move to the next one.
No, but you really think it's only a social problem? So you provide people with food and music and that's it?
And education, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, always there will be some bad things, but that's something that you need to live with. But always there will be somebody that didn't take his pills today. Because, you know, there are lots of psychological pills today, psychiatrist pills. So some people need these pills. Look, I didn't want to say drugs, for example, but this can help. Wine, I didn't say.
I'm not sure about it, because even what's if there can be anything learned out of the Shoah, then that it was not a question of social issues, because in Vienna there were people very famous professors and everything, and The
But-
aggression against them was also not only done by people who were poor. It was not only proletarians who joined the Nazis. So,
But still, there was religion, and there was. It starts with religion. It starts. Every Christian is sure that we killed God from his birth. It's very difficult to change the mind of a Christmas child in Christmas that the Jews didn't kill God. I mean, especially at the time of the Shoah, everybody knew that the Jews killed God. Besides, they were not tolerant to the Jews because they were foreigners and they were too successful, many of them. Or if they were not so successful, they looked with these noses and like the Stürmer. I mean, because the poor Jews of Poland, they looked threatening. They looked, but I think as far as Jews and Arabs, it will take, if it will change, it's a matter of many, many years. Many, many years. But if, for example, I can tell you another utopia, that an intelligence of UFOs will come here and will reorder the whole thing. They'll put everything in justice and everything in thing, and whoever his mind is fucked up, they can fix his mind. Not to have, at least, to be whoever he is, everybody with his different thing, but not to be mean, not to be evil. Mm-hmm. This is a utopia. Higher intelligence coming from landing here.
yeah, but there's also this dilemma of the diversity. On one hand, if you say everybody should be able to stay as he is, or stay Jewish, stay Arab.
Of course.
On the other hand,
I cannot
even
live
this
in Jerusalem
diversity-
without all these colorful people.
Yeah, but most of them are religious people.
What can I do?
So for us, it's also one of the things that are fascinating for us, especially about Jerusalem.
Yeah.
We're fans of Jerusalem.
No, I don't mind if they will be religious in a second thought. Look, not everything that I say is correct. I'm making
I
mistakes.
try to provocate you a bit.
I'm not a genius. I don't care if they are religious, but not racist religious. I don't care if they pray to God.
For example, 2 days ago on Saturday we experienced the end of Shabbat in Mea Shearim. We really went there and we stood in the middle of a crossing and just enjoying this. It's no one can imagine this scenery in this atmosphere in Europe.
Yeah.
And it changes the whole district, and you feel like it's so only the lack of cars. No car is going there, and the people are walking in the middle of the street,
with all
which is really impressive, and we like it very much. So also as an artist, I was very impressed from this.
Nissim, stop scratching in front of the microphone.
Oh, it's recording? We are talking?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I thought it was...
The microphone again.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm now back to recess finished. I'm taking my words back. I am... I really like religious people as long as it does not interfere with politics. Religion is fine, it's beautiful, it's colorful, it's something ancient. If it does not interfere with politics, and if it does not force you to eat only kosher food, and if it does not force you to change your ways because of their ways, I will not force them to change their ways, and they will not force me to change my way. This is also an utopia, because it's far away from reality. And again, I'd like to emphasize that I hope there are higher intelligence in other places in the universe, and may they give us a visit and teach us some ways and things rather than the education that we get from television.
Okay, so
5 minutes on the tape.
5 minutes. This is, so I tell you another thing which is very connected to this fascination. It's also a thing about space we experienced here, and somehow we are very big fans of Joseph Roth, who described the monarchy Vienna very similar like we somehow experience Jerusalem now, because it's a mixture of a lot of cultures and people and all together and somehow separated. For sure there are conflict, but Roth in his utopia he describes this as the step forward in civilization. This diversity in a positive way. And
the pluralism.
Yeah, this pluralism. And
of course, otherwise we'd hear the same music, we'll eat the same food, and we'll have the same jokes.
Yeah, on the other hand, if they want to block the roads in their district, they are in a way violent to some people living there or some people living in the neighborhood. So it causes, even not talking about the religion itself, only about cultural, formal things.
I will never drive there in Saturday. I will not bother them. I think I respect their ways. I really like to see all these Jews from like they looked in Europe here. They're fascinating. They have a way of life. They're very difficult life, by the way. But a lot, well, let's face it, we speak, we want everything good and everything nice and the ecology and the beautiful, but many good things were created from the suffering, from the pain, from the difficulty. So on one hand, you want justice for all. On the other hand, maybe this world will be very boring with the justice for all. Because, we would not have gypsy music if the gypsies will not be the way they are and in their poverty, in the way they live. We would not have Kafka if he wouldn't have a difficult life. We would not have Van Gogh if he would not be individual in his way and mad about his work. So a lot of good things, advanced things, come from the difficulty. And like invention is the mother of necessity, a lot of art and music and culture come from the poverty, from the difficulty. If you sit all day in the bar and drinking beer and eating hot dogs, not much comes out of it. And there's not much coming out of the rich people. We see more life and more happiness in Brazil, in the carnival, in places where people have, they're more human beings. So, and I tell you also in Israel, when everybody was poor, it was much nicer. There was no competition. So there was not much food, many clothes, only one pair of shoes, but people were happy. and children were friends. I mean, you could have friends. Today, children hardly have friends. Most of the time in front of the computer and the TV. We were playing in the street. There was no TV, nothing special in the radio, and even going together to the cinema. I mean, to go to the cinema in my neighborhood in the afternoon when it was full of children yelling and shouting and doing. You don't have it today.